Hi, Christine here. In my demonstration, I'd like to go over with you how to recognize a dull knife and how to sharpen a dull knife. So for starters, how to recognize a dull knife, there are 3 tests that I would like to go over with you. The food test, the shine test, and the paper test. Okay, so the food test is, does your knife cut cleanly through food? Do you have to add extra pressure? Do you have to add a sawing motion to get your food to cut where you want it to? Or does your knife cut cleanly exactly where you want it to the first time? Number 2, the shine test. You can take your knife, point the blade up to the light, and if you see light reflecting off of the blade where the point should be, you know that there's a flatter section of that blade that shouldn't be there. Seeing that reflection is light reflecting off the flat space, so we know that there's a non-sharpened point on my knife if I can see light reflecting there. Number 3, the paper test. If I take my knife and I try and cut through a piece of paper, if it cuts cleanly, then I've got a good knife. But if it cuts rough or rips or changes direction without me wanting to change direction, then I have a knife that's not very sharp. This knife right now, it's not even getting into the paper. It has some dull sections here. So there's tip number 1, and it just ripped to get in. So let's see if I can keep going. Start this little section here. See, and at the end, I caught a little bit here at the end. It did pretty cleanly for a little bit, but I obviously had a couple nicks where I tried to start and where I tried to stop. So I can recognize that I have a dull knife. But now, why is this important? Why does this matter? The phrase that I want you to remember is, a dull knife is a dangerous knife. When we have to add extra pressure to a blade or extra work to a sharp blade in order for it to do its job, accidents tend to happen. Let me show you. So here I have this section of a tomato. I like to use a tomato because the skin is tough. Sometimes it's really hard to get through that skin, so we might want to peel it off or start from another section, but this is really, really great for the food test. Using a tomato is also really great for demonstrating this piece of information. So first, I'm going to take this blade here. I sharpened this blade the other day. I'm going to lower this blade onto the tomato, and it's going to cut very cleanly. I didn't have to do anything else. The weight of the knife should help me drive through the food. It cut very cleanly. I have no nicks. The tomato didn't get squished. I have a sharp blade. I'm going to use the blunt side of the knife here to demonstrate this, because I know this is a little small for you to see. So let me move this off to the side here. A dull blade instead, I'll go here from the side, when you go down to cut your food, it's gonna squish it. You see my knife isn't going into the tomato yet? I'm squishing it. And so I might wanna make a little poke and then keep trying, but I'm still squishing it. And so then I start to push harder, then I start to saw, and that blunt part of the blade is gonna slip. It might slip towards my finger, it might slip away from my finger, I don't know. And if it does slip towards my finger, I'm probably still gonna get cut. And that's the importance of this. A dull knife is a dangerous knife. We do not want to be using dull knives in our kitchens, in our homes, and having these accidents that could be prevented by a simple honing or sharpening tool. Okay? So, 3 tests: food test, shine test, paper test. And if your knife fails those tests, then you have a dull blade. Okay? So now on to sharpening our blade. In the Barbecue Guys videos, they went over 4 tools with you, and I would like to briefly go over 3 and then use the sharpening tool to demonstrate correctly how to do that. So the first one was the honing tool. This comes in majority of the knife sets that you can buy in the store. You've probably seen one of these before. They're usually circular. There was a ceramic one in the video. There was a diamond coated one. There's a lot of different kinds of honing tools, but this is the one you're going to see in your average home. Kind of looks like a little sword. There's a little hilt here that's going to protect your fingers. This is the one that you see chefs using in movies and TV shows, and they're going really, really fast with their chef knife. They've had a lot of practice, so you don't have to go fast in order to still use this effectively. Go slow, make sure the angle of your blade is exactly what you want it to be, and make sure that you are safe distance from your fingers, from your neighbors, other family members that might be getting in the way. Number 2 is the whetstone. So my whetstone is just your basic fine grit. It has a wood base, it has the whetstone, the rock here on the top. So I would want to put this on a stable surface. So just like any wood or regular cutting board, I'm going to put a damp towel down, put my whetstone on my towel. Whetstones work best when they're wet. So you'll put a little bit of water on it, kind of smear it around. Once again, you need to know the perfect, or not the perfect, but the ideal angle for the blade of the knife you're going to use. And then you're going to very carefully, very slowly apply pressure and bring the blade along the stone. If you have a coarse side and a fine side, you're going to want to start with the coarse. Do even numbers to both sides of your double beveled blade, and then flip over to the fine, get it wet, and then do some pull throughs with your wet side of your whetstone as well, or your fine side of your whetstone, excuse me. Wash that off, and you'll be ready to do the test to see if your knife is as sharp as you would hope it to be. Number 3 is a knife sharpener. So I have here a J.A. Henkel's knife sharpener, very, very popular brand of kitchen knife tools. If you're interested in a high quality brand, you can look for those. So you can see here there's some obvious use signs on this tool. So obviously this is the handle. I've got my finger marks, I've got my thumb hole. This is where I'm going to grab the tool. I'm going to put my thumb and my forefinger through here, very, very far away from the blades. Okay, over here I have my 2 knife sharpening sections. This one says coarse, so I'm not going to forget. This one over here is fine. I have 2 pieces of stone going inside each one. So if I'm going perfectly perpendicular in there with my blade and drawing it through, I'm going to have that good angle that I'm looking for. The bottom of this has some rubber there, some silicone. So when I put this on my counter, it's not going to move around on accident, applying the pressure that I need to. So I have a sharpening tool here. There are sharpeners for single bevel. Mine is for a double bevel. So it's going to refine and sharpen both sides of the blade at the same time. There are different shapes, different brands. There are electric ones. So you just find the one that's going to work best for you. Okay, so here is my knife sharpening tool. I'm going to place it on my hard, stable surface here, kind of off to the side. I'm sitting down. I would normally want to do this standing up, but for recording purposes, I'm going to do this sitting down. So I'm going to sit a little off to the side so I'm clear of my follow through. I'm not going to have a big follow through, but even still, I want to make sure I'm safe and out of the way. I'm going to take my knife. Like the whetstone, I just have a personal opinion, I don't even know. I like to still get this wet. So I'm going to take, I have a really wet rag here. I would go to the sink and just kind of bring some water over that, but I'm just going to kind of wipe both sides of the blade down here, just so it's a little bit wet. I feel like it's not as loud when I do this. Also, I feel like I'm a little bit more successful. So, dry my hands off now. I don't want to do this with wet hands. I'm going to apply my pressure. I'm going to grip my tool in the correct place. I'm going to take my knife, grip my knife correctly. I'm going to put my knife perpendicular. I'm going to go through the coarse side maybe like 4 or 5 times. I'm going to apply pressure. I'm going to go from bolster to tip. I got caught in a little nick there, so maybe I'm going too far back. I'll kind of skip that section. And I'm just going to go slow and steady. You don't have to go fast. Now I'm going to move over to the fine. Go through another 4 or 5 times. I'm going to wipe it off and do my food test again. Alright, so let me get my rag here. I'm going to wipe off my knife once again. Because if there's any refined parts that got displaced, I don't want that getting into my food. Now I'm going to take my cutting board, wet rag for a stabilizer, and replace this tomato with a good one. And let's see how I did. So I'm going to hold this appropriately. I'm not going to get my fingers in the way. Hold my knife appropriately as well. Make sure you look for good knife handling skills if you are not comfortable with using knives yet. And took a second to get through, but the rest of it was really good. So let's try one more time. Compared to the food test that we did before, this looks pretty good, doesn't it? See? There we go. If you still felt like there was a little bit of resistance when you're doing your food test, go ahead and rinse off your knife, pull it through the coarse and the fine, sharpening one more time, a couple more times, whatever you feel comfortable doing. Rinse it off and try the food test again, and continue to do so until you feel comfortable that your knife is not going to pull any fast ones on you when you're trying to cut your food. So there we have it. We have the 3 dull knife tests. Remember, a dull knife is a dangerous knife. First test is the food test. Then we have the shine test. And we have the paper test. And then when you are ready to sharpen your knife and you have the tool that you prefer to use, whether it be the whetstone or the sharpening tool, make sure you are handling those tools appropriately so that you don't come any harm or injury while you're doing that. And then you can sharpen your blade. So just for the sake of doing that, let's do the paper test one more time. And let's see. Oh, yeah, I went right in that time. Check that out. So, my knife has now passed the test. I can clean it. I can continue to use it in my home. And next time I feel like the blade's getting out of alignment, I can use that honing steel or I can use my sharpener and I can get back into safety mode. Thanks for watching.